strengthening our deterrence and defense with the right forces, capabilities and stockpiles, and protecting our critical infrastructure by strengthening our military planning and our cooperation with industry. It is almost 1 year since Russia launched its full-fledged invasion of Ukraine, the biggest conflict in Europe since World War II. And we see no signs that Russia is preparing for peace. On the contrary, Russia is launching new offensives. Yesterday, Defense Minister Resnikov updated NATO ministers on the situation and Ukraine's most urgent needs. I welcome the new pledges of support made by NATO allies, including more heavy weapons and military training. This is critical. Ukraine has a window of opportunity to tip the balance, and time is of the essence. I want to thank allies for the significant contributions, including to NATO's comprehensive assistance package. This is providing Ukraine with food, fuel, medical supplies, counter-drone systems, and amphibious bridges. Ministers also discussed our commitment to our other partners at risk, including Bosnia and Herzegovina, Georgia and Moldova. And we agreed to step up tailored support to enhance their defense capabilities, resilience and interoperability with NATO. Today, allies took steps to further strengthen NATO's deterrence and defense. Since our historic Madrid summit, we have been making good progress, boosting our forward defenses and upgrading our readiness and defense plans. Allies agreed new guidance for NATO's defense planning. This reflects the reality that we live in a more dangerous world. With Russia's aggressive behavior, the persistent threat of terrorism, and the challenges posed by China. NATO's defense planning will drive capability changes for the years to come and ensure that our deterrence and defense remain strong and credible. Ministers also addressed ways to boost industrial capacity and replenish stockpiles of armaments and munitions. NATO allies are providing unprecedented support to help Ukraine push back against Russia's aggression. At the same time, this is consuming an enormous quantity of allied ammunition and depleting our stockpiles. Allies agree on the need to work hand in hand with the defense industry to ramp up our industrial capacity. We are ready and we are reviewing NATO capability targets for munition stockpiles. And I welcome the important multinational projects agreed by allies today. These include a project on ammunition warehousing, which will support the pre-positioning and stockpiling of allied ammunition, as well as a project on ground-based air defense. Today, ministers also addressed the security of critical undersea infrastructure. The sabotage of the Nord Stream pipelines has reminded us all of the vulnerabilities we face. Ministers tasked the NATO military authorities to provide advice on what more we should do, including through better coordination and cooperation with the private sector. And I am standing up a critical undersea infrastructure coordination cell here at the NATO headquarters, led by Lieutenant General Hans Werner Wiemann, a highly respected former German military officer. It will facilitate engagement with industry and bring key military and civilian stakeholders together to share best practices, leverage innovative technologies, and boost the security of our undersea infrastructure. At our summit in Vilnius, leaders will take further decisions to ensure that NATO can effectively coordinate between military, civilian, and private sector to secure our critical undersea infrastructure. As we continue to adapt our alliance, we need to have the right resources. So ministers also discussed the importance of investing in defense. More countries are now spending at least 2% of their GDP on defense. And 2022 was the 8th consecutive year of increased defense spending by European allies and Canada, with an additional investment of $350 billion. This trend is expected to continue this year, but more needs to be done. So today, allies discussed how to build on the defense investment pledge and future commitments beyond 2024. NATO leaders will take decisions on this at our next summit in Vilnius. With that, I'm ready to take your questions.
On to the BBC.
Thank you very much, Secretary General Jonathan Beale, BBC News. You started this meeting and the head of the contact group saying that you're making the point that Ukraine is using, and Russia using, huge amounts of ammunition. You repeated that just now. And you warned about NATO's own stockpiles of ammunition, that production needed to be ramped up. First of all, have any countries actually now committed to ramp up their production, apart from the US and France, which you mentioned earlier, signing a new contract? And the second question is, you know, we get a message from Lord Austin, US Defense Secretary, that Ukraine is getting what it needs. But what you're suggesting is that Ukraine might not get what it needs, that it will run out of artillery shells, tank shells, for example. So are you worried that Ukraine could run out of ammunition in the coming months? Thank you.
So what we see is an enormous expenditure of ammunition, and we have seen that for several months. And that's also the reason why we actually started to address that last fall. We convened with meetings with the defense industry. We addressed this issue in different NATO capitals, and now we see that things are actually moving in the right direction. Yes, the United States, France have signed contracts, but also other allies, Germany, Norway, and there are also others who have already signed contracts with the defense industry, meaning that production is now ramping up. And that is making a huge difference. And partly it's possible to increase production from the existing factories' capabilities. But of course, you also need to make investments. That will take some more time. But actually, both things are now happening: utilizing existing capacity more and investing in new production capacity. So the production of, for instance, artillery shells, the 155, is now increasing, and that enables us to both replenish our own stocks, which we have depleted, but also to continue to provide support to Ukraine. We also do this by working together. Allies are jointly addressing the need to also joint procurement, to make big orders from the industry, to utilize the economy of scale and to place bigger orders and to give the defense industry the long-term demand and the long-term contracts. So yes, things are happening, but we need to continue, we need to step up even more, because there is a big need out there to provide Ukraine with ammunition. This is now becoming a grinding war of attrition, and a war of attrition is a war of logistics, and therefore this is so crucial for our ability to ensure that Ukraine wins, is able to retake territory and launch offensives that ensures that it's able to win the war and to prevail as a certain mission.
Sorry, so you're not worried that Ukraine will run out of ammunition?
So we have seen the big need, and that's exactly why we have reacted several months ago, and now we see that contracts are signed and production is ramping up, and allies are producing more to be able to continue to support Ukraine.
TT News Agency.
Victor Lundin, Swedish news agency TT. Following your doorstep yesterday, there's been a lot of speculation if there's a new line on the membership process for Finland and Sweden. So, just to clarify, if there would be a ratification from one of the countries, would NATO go through and complete the complete process for membership? Or would you still wait in order to get everything clear with both countries at the same time?
So Finland and Sweden, they applied together, and all NATO allies made an historic decision together, all 30, to invite Finland and Sweden at our summit in Madrid, and then all allies, all 30 allies, also Turkey, signed the 2 accession protocols together. And I made it clear actually last fall when I went to Turkey in October that both Finland and Sweden has now fulfilled their obligations in the joint trilateral memorandum they signed with Turkey in July. So I urged Turkey to ratify both Finland and Sweden together already last fall. So that's my position, and that position has not changed. But at the same time, we have also seen that there are different assessments in Turkey about to what extent Finland and Sweden, or should I say, are in the same position to be ratified. And that is a Turkish decision. Turkey has 2 documents, one accession protocol with Finland and one accession protocol with Sweden. So the decisions we need to take as allies, 30 allies, have already been taken. 30 allies invited Sweden and Finland, and 30 allies signed the accession protocols. Now it's for the individual allies to ratify. 28 allies have already ratified both protocols, and then Hungary and Turkey has not. And therefore it is for Turkey to decide whether they ratify both, and I have recommended that, or whether they ratify only one of the 2 documents. That's not a NATO decision. It's a decision by Turkey. So again, my position is that both Finland and Sweden are ready for membership. Both accession protocols should be ratified by all allies. But at the end of the day, it is a decision by Turkey whether they ratify one or both of them.
Would you complete the process then?
But then the process is completed. There's no need for any unanimous decision anymore by NATO. We have made the decision. We have invited both at the same time. So when Turkey ratifies, then the process is completed. As long as also, of course, Hungary and also Finland and Sweden do what they are also now in the process of doing. So this idea that there is a need for a new and unanimous decision by NATO is wrong. There are decisions that has been taken by the individual allies, and 2 allies are not yet ratified. And of course, again, I have urged them for many months to ratify both at the same time. And that's still my position, it has never changed. I've been actually pushing hard for Swedish and Finnish membership. And I'm absolutely confident that both Finland and Sweden will become a member. At the same time, the sequencing is not the most important thing. The most important thing is that both Finland and Sweden soon become members of the alliance, and I'll push hard for that. I also actually travel to Kiev tomorrow, and that will be one of the issues I certainly will address.
Ömer Tuğrulcan with Turkish News Agency Anadolu. Secretary General, could you please give us the latest information about the relief efforts, NATO's relief efforts for the victims of the earthquakes in Turkey?
All allies expressed their deepest condolences and support to Turkey, our ally, and the deepest condolences for the loss of lives in Turkey and Syria caused by the terrible earthquake last week. And NATO allies, partners, and NATO have stepped up their support and are providing different types of relief support. And NATO has also decided to deploy shelters to accommodate people who have been displaced. And we will plan to transport these within a few days to Turkey. Tomorrow I will be in Turkey to meet with President Erdogan and Minister Çavuşoğlu and express my solidarity, my condolences, and to continue to address with them how NATO and NATO allies can provide relief support and help alleviate the suffering and the consequences of the terrible earthquake. So I thank allies for the support they have provided. Actually, I ended the meeting today to call on allies to provide even more support. There is an urgent need for more strategic airlift, and NATO allies have provided strategic airlift. We need more airlift to actually bring in tents and relief to Ukraine. And we started this meeting yesterday with a moment of silence in solidarity with the victims of the earthquake.
Thank you, Anna. Secretary General, thank you. Alex Bobrovnikov, Kyiv Post, Ukraine. Firstly, there's an ongoing talk of the open doors policies of NATO, while Ukraine being a spear force of the anti-totalitarian war happening right now. We still are in a situation where there's no news on potential membership to Ukraine. Do you feel like during your stay as a Secretary General, this historical shift may happen through the membership action plan or any other facility, this old-fashioned ways of NATO's developing its potential and future partners? That's one thing, one question. And the second one would be on due diligence of allied help to Ukraine. Mr. Reznikov has flagged yesterday that this is an ongoing talk on basically, so to say, due diligence or checking the situation there with how the assets were used. Where do we stand on that, and what we can expect? Thank you.
So first of all, on membership, what I have demonstrated and what NATO allies have demonstrated over the last years is that NATO's door is open. We have two new members, Montenegro and North Macedonia. Both times Russia protested heavily, but the allies and these individual countries decided their own path and we invited them, and they are now members. Then Finland and Sweden are very close to membership. They are now invited to the alliance, they participate in NATO structures, meetings, they're at the NATO table, they are more and more integrated into NATO's civilian and military structures, including defense planning. So we are very close to also have two more, Finland and Sweden, as full-fledged members. On Ukraine, NATO's position has not changed. We have reiterated many times that Ukraine will become a member of the alliance. But the focus now is to ensure that Ukraine wins the war, because the only way to integrate and to ensure that Ukraine can move towards Euro-Atlantic cooperation, closer Euro-Atlantic cooperation, is to ensure that Ukraine prevails as a sovereign, independent nation. So the main focus of NATO allies is to ensure that Ukraine gets the weapons, the supplies, the ammunition they need to push back the Russian invaders. And we're also working on more long-term partnership, helping Ukraine to move from Soviet-era weapons, doctrines, standards to NATO standards, to improve interoperability on security and defense reform, and all of that to move Ukraine closer to the NATO alliance. Then, of course, the best proof that the support works and it's actually helping Ukraine is the progress Ukraine has delivered on the battlefield. And allies are also, of course, constantly working with the Ukrainian authorities to ensure that all the money, all the funding ends up where it should. That's also, we have very close contact with them. We work on that all the time to ensure that we have the necessary oversight and transparency. And that's the way we are ensuring that that's happening.
Okay, thank you.
Natalia Josiak from Bloomberg. I wanted to ask on defense spending. You said before that allies are increasingly seeing 2% of GDP as a floor and not a ceiling. And after the discussions today, do you have any sense of whether that 2% figure could increase when leaders agreed to the new pledge this summer?
So what we had now was the initial discussion among allies on what should be the new defense investment pledge. Because in 2014, NATO allies made a pledge to move towards spending 2% of GDP on defense by 2024. So when we meet this summer in July in Vilnius, we need to make a new pledge. And that's obvious because the current one is actually running out. What we had today was the initial discussion, and of course we didn't conclude. The conclusions are going to be drawn at the summit later on. But what is obvious is that if it was right to commit to spend 2% in 2014, it is even more right now. Because we live in a more dangerous world. There is a full-fledged war going on in Ukraine, in Europe. And then we see the persistent threat of terrorism, and we see also the challenges that China is posing to our security. So it is obvious that we need to spend more. My thinking around this is that instead of changing the 2%, I think we should move from regarding the 2% as a ceiling to regard the 2% of GDP as a floor, a minimum. And to have a stronger commitment, and not a long-term perspective or move towards, but actually that we need immediate commitment to spend 2% as a minimum, because when we see the needs for ammunition, for air defense, for training, for readiness, for high-end capabilities, it's obvious that 2% defense spending is needed.
Thank you very much. I know there are a lot more questions. I'm afraid that's all we have time for today. Thank you.
Thank you.